All right, welcome back. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from the NFL on CBS. Ben Johnson's total offensive ranks with the Lions. You can see he's gone from 4th to 3rd to 2nd this year. And the last season the Bears finished top 5 in total offense was 1977. So they are championing this hire, and he's a good one. He's a young guy who has a lot of vision, a lot of different stuff going on there in Detroit, and now we'll take it to Chicago in the same division. And then we see Aaron Glenn go. I don't know what your expectation of Ben Johnson is, Chris, but for me, I expect, because they have a quarterback there and because he's been very good about dealing with scheming guys open, I have a feeling you're going to see an uptick quickly in Chicago.
Well, the quarterback that he's inheriting has far more raw ability overall than the quarterback he's moving on from. Jared Goff played a horrible game when they needed him to play a great one in the divisional round. But I would say the infrastructure otherwise around Ben Johnson that he's inheriting is not nearly as good. The Lions had a terrific and have a terrific offensive line, an aggressive defense that Aaron Glenn was running, have really done a good job to acquire a lot of talent at a lot of different positions. So he goes from that kind of cocoon in an indoor setting, by the way, to a place where it's often windy and kind of brutally cold out, and to a team that I think has a lot more holes on the offensive side, and to a quarterback who, for all his talents, you kind of get some head-scratching moments, and he's a guy who doesn't play within structure. Goff is the ultimate in-structure guy, so I think Ben Johnson's challenge, Bob, is going to be to design an offense around a guy who wants to do a lot more improvisation, even though he hasn't always proven to be good at it. So I think the guy's a great offensive mind. I do have some questions as to how it's going to work there.
Yeah, but I do like, this is a different kind of era in football. It's about quarterbacks. He had a quote today as I was listening to his press conference, and this was it. Modern football in the NFL is quarterback driven. You can look at all the analytics. Quarterback success is a higher predictor of winning than turnover ratio. And that's something that
Don't tell Mike Tomlin that. He'll get very angry. No, Mike will get very angry. Mike's
about quarterbacks. There's no question. And they got to figure out, long term here, who's their quarterback. But I think that's an interesting quote, and I tend to believe it. If you have the kind of quarterback, and just look at what's left in this tournament so far, you got some really good quarterbacks, including a rookie who's playing like he's been around for about 5 years.
Well, when you have a really good quarterback, if you're the team going against him, guess what that really good quarterback usually does? Makes it harder for you to force turnovers. I mean, I've always felt like Mike Tomlin's approach to turnovers and being so obsessive about them, even to the point where I think he put the cuffs back on Russell Wilson late this year because Russ started turning the ball over, has been really short-sighted and really antiquated. And I do think Ben Johnson's right to say it's all about your quarterback play. I even think when Josh Allen last year had a lot of turnovers, people gawked at it, but he was still making so many positive plays that it absolutely superseded the bad stuff. So I think that's a modern approach and an accurate one.
All right, let's go to the lines. We have a lot of them on right now at 412-575-2600, beginning with David in Finleyville. Hello, David. What's going on?
Hi, Bob. Thanks for taking my call. I would like to ask you and Chris and your answer. What options do you think would be the best for the Steelers to keep, Wilson or Fields?
Yeah, I think we've gone over this, but I just think Fields, because of his youth, because it would cost less, because you can also try to develop him while retooling it, hopefully, in some form or fashion. I don't think it's going to happen this year necessarily, but I would go down that road more than I would invest more money into a guy who's going to be 37. Again, all due respect to him.
Wilson I think Fields, to be fair, is pretty limited in what he can do as a passer, and I don't share some of the optimism that you can find on social media that he can suddenly become a completely different passer than he's been so far in his career. But we know exactly what Russell Wilson is as he enters into his late 30s. A guy who either makes the home run play or the dump-off play, very little to nothing in the intermediate sense, and a guy who takes way too many sacks behind an offensive line that still hasn't proven that it can protect a quarterback adequately for the regular amount of time you would expect in an NFL pocket. So the answer's got to be Fields if it's between those two. I don't know how the Steelers could look at Wilson and say, yes, we want another season or two of this under center.
Lou in Baldwin is up next. Hello, Lou.
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
We're good. What's up?
Well, baseball. I don't know. I'm kind of sick of the same teams winning a World Series every year.
Get used to it.
To create parity, what do you think about maybe the government getting involved somehow?
No. I think the league has to do something. If they're not going to do it, I brought this up to Andrew last night, Chris, because I think what the Dodgers are doing is creative. You know, they've decided to defer a whole bunch of money, over $1 billion. But is that circumventing some of the, you know, the rules that baseball may have here? And I brought it up because he's a big Met fan, Pony, and when Steve Cohen was brought in to be the owner of the Mets, they had some concerns about whether or not he was going to do this, and they have little clauses in there about what he can do and money that would go to other teams vis-a-vis a luxury kind of a tax. Are the Dodgers playing fair, or does it matter at this point because they can do whatever they want and the league is okay with how much you want to spend, however you want to spend it?
League makes the rules. League says you're doing something that's above board. League, or more to the point, if the league doesn't have a problem with what you're doing, all's fair. I mean, the league clearly got pushback from its bigger markets when the Pirates were spending a lot in the draft about 12 or 13 years ago. Well, sorry, you lose if Boston, New York, LA are mad at you. And Boston, New York, LA, Philly, they drive the bus as far as ratings and exposure for the sport. You know, people don't want to hear me say this, but I think it's the unvarnished truth. If Rob Manfred could guarantee that the Yankees and Dodgers would meet in the World Series for the next 30 straight years, he would sign up for that in a heartbeat as long as nobody else was aware of it. Like, as long as the conclusion was not foregone to anybody else. Because that's a bonanza for Major League Baseball. Teams like the Pirates, the Royals, the Guardians, whatever you want to call it, making a little run in the playoffs, that's like a novelty that kind of keeps the farce from being completely exposed. But, I mean, that's what baseball is now. The Pirates they are not a financial engine for the league, and therefore the league is just not going to pay a whole lot of attention to them. And as I always tell people, if Rob Manfred really had a problem with how Bob Nutting owns the Pirates and how he spends his money, he would absolutely make that known to Bob Nutting behind the scenes. And I think it happened with the A's, Bob. I don't know about you. Mm-hmm. I think when the A's moved to, even though it's a Sacramento team for a couple of years, and they're going to play in a minor league ballpark, once the owner got what he wanted and is eventually going to end up in Vegas, it would not shock me whatsoever if Rob Manfred quietly through back channels said, okay, we got you out of there. Now start spending some money and pay it back here so people are actually excited about this franchise. And wouldn't you know it, Severino and others getting signed to real, actual Major League free agent contracts by the Oakland, or now the Sacramento Athletics.
Yeah, one of the surprise signings early on in this process. You're right about that. And the other sad truth is the owners, like the Pirates and all these other smaller markets, they really don't care because they're going to get a lot of money out of this whole thing. They're making a lot of money even when they lose, so they seem to be content with that, and that's a shame. It shouldn't be like that. Let's go to Bob and Shaler. Hello, Bob. How are you?
Hi, guys. First-time caller.
Appreciate it.
I want to talk about college football game, the Montana State. That quarterback was outstanding. I think the Steelers are looking for a late-round choice. They might have another Brock Purdy. One thing, Chris Miller always tells the truth. Thank you.
Well, he does. You got a Chris Mueller fan club member there. First-time caller, no doubt.
Did you actually watch the dude from Montana State?
I've
because
seen
I can't believe I'm saying this. I did.
But I mean,
he's like a little guy, though. He's not an NFL player.
Right,
he's a wide receiver in the NFL or something like that. He's a slot receiver.
He's
a
exciting to watch,
safety.
but they're not going to look in that direction. And quite frankly, I don't think they could find their quarterback, unless he gets extremely aggressive if they're looking for one, until next year. And that's also part of the reason I like Justin Fields as the quarterback, because if there is a downside, it could actually help them in moving up to a position where they can maybe help themselves. One more call before we go to break, Chris. Let's get Gary in Mount Lebanon. Hello, Gary. How are you tonight? Gary in Mount Lebanon. No? How about Butch in Center Township? Butch, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say I don't think the Steelers should re-sign Pickens, the number 14 receiver. He's a talented receiver, but he's a clown. He's another Antonio Brown. He hurts the team more than he helps them.
Well, they have a decision to make on him. Thanks for the call from Center Township, Chris. And the decision is, do you do something with him now? Because if you wait, fine, you can play it out. There's no guarantee he's going to act mature enough during that process. If he knows he's not going to get a deal, I thought Najee handled himself well in that regard. But at the end of it, then your option would be franchise him or lose him. So I think if they're going to make a decision, it'll be in this offseason.
Yeah, and Pickens, through his actual Instagram, not a rumored Twitter burner account, seems to be indicating that he thinks he's staying, he's not going anywhere, and he wants to be a Steeler. The burner account is touting Russell Wilson, among other things, so who knows, but he's the decision, really. He's the pivot point for them, and I really, excuse me, I really am tired enough of the Pickens saga week in and week out, wondering if you're going to get max effort, max production, or if there's going to be any headaches. I would rather see the Steelers just say we failed in this attempt, our latest attempt to bring in a talented but moody wide receiver and get the most out of him, and just move on from him, even if it's only for a third-round pick, Bob.
We got to go to a break. We'll come back with more right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Got a tweet. Nathaniel Watson from Waverly, Ohio says, does the boy who found the Skeens card have to pay taxes on the items won? The answer is yes. Real quick, Chris, we have about 20 seconds. What would you do with that?
Sell the card, kid. Do not take their offer. Sell the card. The offer is worth half of what that card would fetch at auction. Maybe hold on to it, see if Skeens adds accolades, and you'll get even more. Sell the card.
Unless he has a problem, gets injured, and then he becomes, you take a risk in that department, but I get what you're saying. I would hold on to it and hope he wins a couple of Cy Youngs. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. We'll do it again tomorrow night right here, 10:35 for the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. See you later.